Welcome back, Axis and Allies players, straight from the nest. It's Wars of the World, Series 3, the Napoleonic Wars. NATO's going to lead us through this introduction and through all of our scenarios. Take it away, NATO, and show us how it's done.
Hello everybody, this is NATO at the Nest with the first half of the 1812 turn of the Napoleonic Wars. You can remember from last video the one new addition and one twist is Russia switched sides again, so Russia is now allied with the British and Prussians, and America has declared war on England. Now the historical reason of why America did that, the official reason was America was tired of the British impressment of their sailors, and what that means in English is the British were stopping American merchants that were trading with Napoleon, or well, anybody really, and anybody on the ship that had a British sounding last name or had a British accent, the British accused them of being deserters from the Navy and would more or less kidnap them and force them into the British Navy. Now, this was an obvious violation of American sovereignty, and America used this, at least officially, as casus bellum, or cause for war. Like I said, that's the official reason. The real reason was America wanted Canada. Then the British impressment of sailors was just the excuse. So I'm not going to pull any punches. I am an American, so America declared war on England in 1812 because we wanted Canada. It's just a simple truth. Anybody from Canada watching this video are bad. But anyways, America is now in the war. The reason why Russia flipped yet again. Actually, let's back up, because I don't think I explained why Russia switched sides the first time. Russia switched sides the first time back in 1808, I believe. Mostly because this wasn't too long after the Battle of Austerlitz, and where Napoleon completely crushed a joint Russian and I believe Austrian army. I might have the Austrian part wrong. And after that, Napoleon proceeded to defeat Russia a couple more times. So Russia sued for peace because it was getting their butts handed to them left and right by Napoleon. And Napoleon accepted, and then Napoleon met with the Russian Tsar, and the Russian Tsar kind of, was awestruck by Napoleon and kind of developed kind of a hero crush on Napoleon, I guess you could say. And he became at least the Russian Tsar thought he had become a really close friend of Napoleon. More than likely Napoleon was probably just using him. But anyways, so Napoleon and the Tsar developed this kind of friendship thing. And so the Tsar of Russia decided he would throw in his lot with France and Napoleon. And when this happened, historically, Austria and Prussia dropped out of the war, and Russia then declared war on Sweden, and they duked it out over the what would become the Finnish territories. So flash forward to 1812. The reason why Russia flips yet again is because the same reason why Napoleon annexed Spain. That continental system where Napoleon was trying to impose an embargo on England. Well, Russia wasn't following that. Russia was kind of giving the finger to Napoleon and trading with England, because by this time Russian-French relations had soured yet again, and Russia wasn't willing to pretty much flirt economic ruin just because Napoleon didn't want them to trade with England. So Russia decided to trade with England regardless of the continental system and the trade embargo that Napoleon was trying to implement. So in Napoleon's second biggest mistake, Napoleon declared war on Russia and decided to invade it to punish Russia for daring to trade with an enemy of France. Of course, the history buffs out there know the tragic end results of Napoleon's march on Moscow in 1812. Napoleon entered Russia with what was it? Somewhere between 600 to 800,000 men, and he returned with less than 30,000. So, well, for France's sake, hopefully that won't happen in this scenario. But you know, that's why Russia flips yet again. So Russia's back on England's side, and England is very happy about that. They desperately need it. So, announcement-wise, that's it. So we'll get into the turn. England, it landed reinforcements in Portugal again, and attacked the French forces there. And it was more or less a draw, fairly equal losses. And then France had an army that had come down from Bordeaux into northern Spain, so the British army in Madrid disengaged from Madrid, turned around and destroyed the French army trying to come up behind it. So that was a big win for England. And then, you know, new front. England invaded the Great Lakes area, and they walked in unopposed, so they took the Great Lakes. And then they also invaded the New England, and America did have forces stationed there, so that resulted in a inconclusive battle. And see, that was it for England. England bought a tech dice. It rolled a 2, I believe, so they're sitting at 11. Yeah, they need 11 more points and they can finally get their infantry squares. And they bought some 3 infantry, cavalry, and a cannon. And that was it for England. Spain, it took 3 units. So we have one ground unit class apiece, and attacked Atlantic side Mexico. That proved to be a disaster. The Mexican rebels took out the entire army. However, Mexico did load up those transports, and they landed in San Francisco to force the Mexicans to fight on 2 fronts. And that fight went well for Spain. They landed, didn't incur any losses, and managed to inflict 1 on the Mexican rebels. And the zone is contested, and San Francisco is also the most valuable zone the rebels have, with it being worth 6 or 8, one of the 2. Russia, now that they're back in the war on England's side, they started moving everything down, started heading for Prussia, and lend-leased the maximum amount to England. England was sitting at 24, so they were able to lend-lease 12 IPPs to England, which will be a big help or desperately needed by England. No combat for Russia because it, was kind of far away from the front. Oh, all those French forces are in East Prussia, but such a small zone, just put them off to the side. So if you're wondering what all those French units are doing up there, they're really right there in East Prussia. So, the zone's contested. Speaking of Prussia, Prussia's delaying action has worked. The Prussians delayed the French long enough for the Russians to get there. The Russians are, the first Russian units are in Estonia right now, right there. So next turn, Prussia will receive quite a substantial amount of Russian reinforcements. The French did attack Prussia, but their delaying actions allowed the Prussians to build up a strong enough defense that while the French attack did kill over half their Prussia's army, it was enough to just hold out long enough for Russia to get there. So Prussia's delaying actions have worked, and Prussia is still very much in this fight. And then Sweden, as you can see, Sweden loaded up everything they had and dropped it down into East Prussia to help with the defense. And then, like I said, France attacked East Prussia, and while they did reduce it by over half, it wasn't enough to knock Prussia out completely. And so next turn, Russia goes before France, so East Prussia will get, a substantial reinforcement of, 4 infantry, 2 cavalry, and 2 cannon. So East Prussia, or Prussia, has survived. Let's see, Portugal just bought another infantry to help with the defensive, help the British defend their capital. And it looks like England's decision to go south with that army and then reinforce with troops from London was the right strategy. It's split the French army in Spain in two, and the Allies have gained the upper hand in Portugal, and in terms of comparative strength, the British and Portuguese have reduced the French army in Spain to relatively equal numbers and power. And as you can see, there's more to come. And with Russia now being able to lend lease to England, that's going to give England a better capability of fighting two theaters now, the European theater and now the North American. America, while we're over there, America took its units that it built up in Washington, counterattacked the Great Lakes, and that didn't go so well for America. The American army didn't get a single hit on the British army, and they lost a unit themselves. America counterattacked in New England, and that went a little better. It was a 1-for-1. British lost a unit, and the Americans lost a unit. So America is still building up. Wasn't ready for war, which historically we weren't. Britain not built up nearly as much as it would like in Canada because of the till recently overwhelming pressure in Europe prevented England from building up in Canada as adequately as it liked, because the French were commanding all of England's attention. Mexico reinforced San Francisco and then moved forces up from Mexico Pacific side to reinforce San Francisco. Mexico didn't attack anything, just reinforced the current theaters, or ends of the board. And that was it for the turn. America's entry, Russia flipping, and very much rebalancing the scales of the European conflict. Russia putting cavalry units to the south because as you can see, France's southern territories are relatively wide open, so Russia put some cavalry down south to threaten France's southern flank and force France to divert forces down south away from Prussia and away from the Russian main army to cover their right wing. So that was it. We'll come back with the second half of 1812 and see what happens. And apparently Viper wants to say something, so...
Hi guys, welcome back to the nest. Over here right behind me is the finishing up of the rules. The website will be launched tonight. I will have that link in the comments below once this video is uploaded, so you guys can go ahead and start attacking that 7 Years' War, and the American Revolution will be loaded up by tomorrow. So thanks for watching guys. Stay tuned for the next segment.
Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the second half of the 1812 turn of the Napoleonic Wars. And England attacked in Portugal and reduced French forces in Portugal down to 3 units, 1 Imperial Guard and 2 cannon. And that was the only attack England did. It reinforced the Great Lakes with a militia, reinforced New England with an infantry. It moved 2 frigates over towards North America, and it moved its transports back to England, and that was all England did. It built a 3rd frigate right there, and then just bought as many ground troops as it could afford. Once again, money from Russia helping a lot. And then Spain, see, on this side of the board, Spain just moved up its ground forces, up to Central America, brought its transports back, and then Spain made another attack on San Francisco, and it was a 1-for-1. Yeah, it was a 1-for-1. Spain lost cavalry. Sorry, Spain lost an infantry, and Mexico lost an infantry as well. And so that was it for Spain. And Spain bought, come on, focus camera. And Spain bought cavalry and a cannon and an infantry. And then Russia, it moved forces into East Prussia to reinforce it, and that's after a French attack. That's what's left. And then Russia just continued moving everything down, so it looks like the ultimate clash between Russia and France is going to be in East Prussia. Probably whoever wins that fight is what's going to decide who wins the war and the scenario. So couple turns away before the main components clash, but it's going to be one huge fight. And then just continued building cavalry in the south and moving it west. Prussia didn't do anything because it has no production, so it can't do anything, so it's just sitting there while much bigger forces clash around them. Sweden bought cavalry and cannon, and that's been helping out with the defense of East Prussia. And France attacked the British in northern Spain, and its French cannon with that first strike destroyed the 2 British units in northern Spain before they had a chance to shoot back. So took the territory with no losses, and then France attacked eastern Prussia, and there was a huge fight. France lost a lot of units, Russia lost a lot of units, and Sweden did. It was a 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 nations involved in that fight. This is Prussia, Sweden, and Russia versus the French forces, and there's a lot of casualties on both sides. And then that's all. Oh, France also took 2 cavalry and attacked a Russian cavalry in western Ukraine, and defeated the Russian force with loss of its own. But Russia is in position to exact some revenge, so we'll see if they attack next turn. And let's see, that's it for France. That is actually a French cannon. Actually ran out of blue cannon pieces, so just pretend that cannon and that cannon is blue. And Portugal bought another infantry. It now has a decent sized army built back up. Maybe the potential of going on the offensive now, next turn. Hopefully that would be huge. That'd be a tremendous help to the British if they'd have a second ally in the Peninsula campaign. America attacked the Great Lakes again, trying to drive the British out of there. They only got 1 hit. The British took it on militia, and British didn't get any hits. Sorry. And then bought another frigate to in case that British squadron attacks, they'll have even 2-on-2 footing. And then bought an infantry, cannon, 3 cavalry, and 2 militia that they put in the Midwest and the Northeast. Okay, Mexico. They made a disastrous attack against Spain in San Francisco. They only managed to hit 1 Spanish unit at the cost of 3 of their own. That was a huge disaster for Mexico, and it actually forced Mexico to pull forces off the Atlantic side of Mexico and their capital, and forced the rebels to send them west to reinforce San Francisco. 99% of the rebels' production is centered in these 4 territories right here, so Mexico cannot afford to lose any of them. So, and that was it for the turn. So next turn is starting a new year, 1813, and we'll see how this colossal fight over Prussia turns out, and it'll probably be the deciding factor of of the scenario. Right now, France is winning. They got 10 points right now to the British alliance's 2 right now, I think, maybe. I don't know. France is winning by a large margin right now. We'll stick with that. But if Russia can punch through that and swing into Central Europe and start taking away victory points and production soon enough, it just might be enough to allow England and its allies to squeeze out a win, because the next turn is going to be 1813, so 2, 4, 6. There's only 6 turns left of the Napoleonic Wars. So they only got, England and its allies only have 6 turns left to turn this around. So it's going to be a lot of hectic fighting and very colossal battles. Well, the largest battles we've seen so far in this Wars of the World series. So stay tuned, looking forward to it, and we'll see you the next turn in a new year with 1813. Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the first half of the 1813 turn of the Napoleonic Wars. And England attacked Portugal and managed to drive the French completely out of Portugal. And then they also landed in northern Spain and contested that zone and rolled really well, inflicted twice as many casualties as they received. And then England just reinforced everywhere it could in Canada, is to try to hold off the growing American numbers. And combat-wise, that was it for England. Built up another substantial wave of reinforcements, moved its transport back. So that was it for England. Spain moved its army, up Central America, so now it's sitting on the border of Mexico again. And then in the west, Spain attacked San Francisco again, did really well, whittled the Mexican rebels down to 1 infantry, and then dropped off reinforcements, and then attacked San Francisco and whittled Mexican rebels down to 1 infantry. And that was it for Spain. Just bought an infantry, cannon, and 2 more cavalry. Russia reinforced Prussia, then attacked the French cavalry in western Ukraine and defeated it. And then, moved everything west, continuing to move its main army towards Prussia to reinforce Prussia and to take on the main French army. Then bought more cavalry for the south and Cossacks for the south to open up that second front with France in southeastern Europe. And then Leningrad, or for this point in time, is actually called St. Petersburg. So St. Petersburg loaded the factory up with infantry, cannon, and 3 cavalry. Prussia can't do anything. Got no money because that's Prussia's last zone or territory, and it's contested, so it has no money, so can't do anything, can't go anywhere. Sweden, in a bid to divert French forces, Sweden loaded up their transport and landed in western Germany and walked into it. And France didn't have any forces there; it was completely undefended, and so Sweden walked in and took it. Took 4 IPP production from France, and with the goal of diverting French reinforcements away from Prussia and the Russian army. And as you can see, that succeeded. It pulled an entire wave of reinforcements away from the eastern front, and France attacked the Swedish forces in western Germany and whittled them down to a single unit. So we'll see what Sweden does. Sweden's got 2 more infantry they can load up on that transport, so we'll see if Sweden reinforces that or sends it somewhere else. So it'll be quite interesting to see. France. Let's see, what did France do? Oh, France attacked Prussia and did quite a bit of damage. Those Imperial Guards units and that first strike ability of that French cannon is really hurting the Allies pretty substantially. Caused a lot of casualties, reduced the Allied army in Prussia to 1 Prussian unit and 3 Cossack units, so it's quite a bloodbath in East Prussia right now. France took the new troops out of Madrid, joined them up with what they had in northern Spain, and attacked the British to try to drive them out, but were unsuccessful. The British are still in northern Spain and also in a now freed up Portugal. So those British units there are now free to move out of Portugal and into Spain and either go into Leon Castillo, take some production away, or swing south and help and hit that French army. So and then France just everything that wasn't in combat, they just moved it towards the combat. So that French army moving towards Prussia to join up with that one. The units that produced out of the Austrian factory moved to east to confront the growing Russian presence in southeastern Europe. And that was it for France. Just spent every dime it had on as many troops as it can pump out, because now fighting a 2-front war. It's facing 3 nations to the east and 2 nations to the west. Portugal, now that England took over the fighting in Portugal, allowed Portugal to build up another army, and so now that the British have pushed the French out of the Portuguese capital, the Portuguese army was able to advance out of Portugal and attack the French forces in southwestern Spain. So the pressure on the French forces in the Iberian Peninsula is mounting steadily, so hopefully England and Portugal can get something going and take over the peninsula. Or if you're rooting for the French, hopefully the French can hold. America was able to push the British out of the Great Lakes. Big victory for them there, but they failed to push the British out of New England. Americans attacked the British in New England, didn't get a single hit, and took a casualty themselves for the trouble. They repaired the USS Constitution. It was, damaged in the previous battle with the British fleet, and America bought another frigate that it lost in the previous battle, replaced the one it lost to keep naval parity with the British in the Atlantic. And then, as you can see, bought more infantry and cannon, and 3 more cavalry to try to overwhelm the British in numbers. And Mexico just bought militia this turn. Put one in the Atlantic side of Mexico, and then put the other 3 in San Francisco to try to recoup losses, and then moved that army up in the Mexico Pacific side up into the southwest states to reinforce San Francisco, because that's where the main fight in the west is. And that was the turn for 1813, or first half of 1813. British and the Portuguese gaining the upper hand in Spain, at least for the moment, because we've seen this conflict sway back and forth between the British and the French, all game long, or pretty much ever since 1808 on. We've seen it sway back and forth. The British will gain the upper hand, and the French will gain it, and then the British will get it back. So Britain's gaining the upper hand again. We'll see if they can keep it this time. Escalating battles in Eastern Europe, especially Prussia, are going to see the largest armies that the series has ever seen so far, clashing over the ruins of Prussia. And then a much smaller front to the south between France and Russia. And Americans gaining a slight upper hand in the west, but still stalemated in the east. And Mexico and Spain kind of playing a cat and mouse game with each other. Haven't had a lot of real direct confrontational fights. Most of the fighting's been, on the perimeter. So we'll come back with the second half of 1813 and see what happens. I'll see you then.
Hey, thanks for watching Axis and Allies players. Don't forget to hit a squat on that like button. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, go ahead and click on our subscribe button. You can view all of our other videos on our playlists right here on Viper and NATO, straight from the nest, coming at you from historical board games, Z-Man Games, Parker Brothers, Hasbro, and Wizards of the Coast. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next round.